How important is setting micro goals and someone that's struggling to run like long distances? Obviously, in like a shorter 100-meter run or something like that, it wouldn't necessarily apply. I mean, it may, but the longer runs, being able to pick a point, getting to it, and then restarting. Have you found that to be a successful practice for folks?
Yeah, and I think, I hate to speak in cliches, but sometimes cliches become cliches because they carry some important information. It's like probably the number one piece of advice that I give to people especially who are starting running or who are trying to build up their distance, is that we tend to overestimate how much we can achieve in the short term and underestimate how much we can achieve in the long term. And I think that's like, I as a sports science writer, especially focusing on running, I spend a lot of time writing about things like running injuries. Like, why do people get shin splints? Why do people get this? And everyone wants to be like, it's because you're wearing the wrong shoes. It's because your hip flexor is not strong enough, or it's because you didn't stretch. And the truth is, every time you study those things, they turn out to be disappointing. And if you really push running injury researchers long enough, it's like, why do people get injured? It's because they tried to do too much too soon. So, if you want to run a Spartan Ultra in 5 months, which is crazy. You don't want to be, you don't want to say, well, if I have to be able to go this many hours, then I need to get to that in, you don't want to do that in 2 weeks. I mean, obviously the mere fact that you're talking about this and it's 5 months away means you've given yourself a long runway. But people often get locked into like, oh, my friends are running a half marathon in 2 months. That'd be fun. I'll start doing that. And it's like, you're totally capable of running a half marathon, whoever you are. Like, anyway, but if you're trying to get yourself there in 2 months, chances are you're focused on, in other words, you're focused on the big goal rather than the micro goal. And you're going to push yourself a little too hard. And the flip side of that is, yeah, I'm going to run that half marathon, but I could never run a marathon. It's like, sure you could. Probably not in 6 months, but if you give it a year or two, whatever, give yourself enough time. If you keep improving by 1% a week or whatever, or lengthening you're going to be running Spartan Ultras before you know it. So I guess I think there's a lot of reasons that goal setting is an important and a nuanced process. One of them is that it helps control your effort, helps moderate your effort level and how much you're pushing on yourself, so that you're not overdoing it in the short term and underdoing it in the long term. But it's also, I think, as I'm sure you've experienced, like it's crucial motivationally too. It's really hard to stay focused on a goal that seems unattainable. And so if you can give yourself, I guess the key thing is to have a balance where you have big stretch goals in the background, but you have recognizable steps to get there, and then you're always working towards something. I mean, before we came on the air, right? You were asking me if I have any racing goals coming up, and I mentioned that I am signed up for a marathon in the fall. But for me right now, where I'm keeping in the, like, I train usually 6 days a week for running, and plus a couple of strength training sessions, and it's like I have a cycle where I'm keeping fit enough that I can get into the heavy training quickly, but I also have sort of microcycles where once every couple months I'll say, okay, yeah, I'm building up towards this Saturday, I'm going to see how fast I can run a 5K. Because there has to be something that kind of focuses your attention. Otherwise, you start to just kind of go through the motions, I think.
Yeah, I say that often, that by having a goal or an event, it makes workouts, it takes it from being a workout to training, and then you're training for something, and it's not just like you're waking up and you're like, okay, why am I doing this? Like that's what I found very motivating, is that I have this goal, it's in the distant future, and I could break that up by saying, I'm sure I'm going to do other races this summer, like a 5K, a 10K. And once I have those, then I'll specifically train for that, but it's all leading up to that greater goal. And that makes every day easier to get up and to train. Versus, like, I'm not going to go run 12 miles on a Saturday, or half marathon on a Saturday by myself just to do it. Like, what I mean? I personally wouldn't right now, but now I'm training for something, and it makes it much more meaningful.
I'm the same. I've been a runner for 35 years now, but and I enjoy it. I know I enjoy it, but I still have, I wouldn't go out and run 12 miles without some purpose. So I try and give myself that purpose. And this, getting into the sort of nuances of goal setting, there's this idea of like, to me, a goal is, you want to find that sweet spot where it's hard to achieve. It's not a slam dunk, right? Like if I set a goal that like, I want to be able to run a 5K by, next month, I know I can run a 5K. I've been running for 35 years. So I want to do something where there's some doubt. And I think about this a lot in terms of like the way I go on vacations and stuff. Often I'll go on backcountry trips, backpacking or canoe trips. And it's like, how challenging should we make the itinerary? And it's like, I'm the one voting against, like, we don't want to do a trip where it's like we paddle for 2 hours and then we get there and we set up camp at 11 a.m. and we're just like, all right, we did it. We kind of want to have a little bit of like, I don't know if we're going to make it in time to, we need to push to make it to, I don't want to work. It's a vacation. I don't want to be like 12 hours on the trail, but I want to feel like there's some challenge. And I think this ties into, when you look into research on flow states and things like that, there's this idea of a challenge or of a goal that is challenging, but within your grasp. It's not impossible, but it's also not, you can't just roll out of bed and meet it. You want to have something that is going to be like, oh yeah, I need to go out and run 12 miles this Saturday. Otherwise, in 2 months, when I show up at the start line of this thing that I've signed up for, I'm not going to be able to do it.